This was such a rainy day, you would not believe it. We covered about 90 kilometres down to Amberley, and it was raining the entire way. Luckily, we didn't have a headwind at first. There's quite a few gusts, but they were mainly coming over the shoulder. But by the time we got closer to the coast, we also had a massive headwind and some awful traffic to deal with. So it was a bit of a miserable day, but we kind of enjoyed it. I think it was having a few places to shelter and get some warm food, something we didn't really have on the Molesworth, that just made it bearable. But yeah, not a pleasant day. A linking mechanism. That's what the Hurunui Heartland route is. It's never going to be something that you would willingly ride a bike on unless you really had to. And we had to get from A to B. Yeah, even the frog at Frog Rock looked like it was upset with all the rain. And the weather really sort of packed in around here, which is a pity because it's kind of one of the nice points of the trip. But it got very cold actually, and we had to shelter up at Waikari for a little bit before making it to the Amberley pub where we had booked in for accommodation. I know it's tempting to pour hate on e-bikers in their 80s and what have you, but not me. I think it's great that these people have found a way to make cycling accessible, and even Ruben found it funny that he was getting passed by these octogenarians on their e-bikes. So good to see that the Sounds to Sounds route and other sort of cycling tracks in the area are being made use of. The original plan was to follow the river up to Ashley Gorge and stay the night there, but we had to change our plans when we recognised that Kath had a broken spoke and there would be a rare opportunity to get it fixed by push bikes in Rangiora. So we crossed the river, went into Rangiora, and then followed a fairly boring straight road up to Oxford, where we booked some accommodation rather than staying in the tent. That meant we got in quite late, but it was good to get that spoke fixed before we moved on outside of service areas for bike shops. So we had a bit of a warning about bike mechanicals the day before Kath spoke. Obviously, I overlooked the opportunity to get my bike fixed up at the same time. It had a bottom bracket problem that I was aware of, but I thought it wasn't such a bad problem, and it made it through about 20 kilometres of this day before absolutely seizing up, and the whole eccentric bottom bracket sleeve was rotating inside the frame, which can't be good. What to do? In the end, I decided that I'd limp to Sheffield, push my bike to Sheffield, and knocked on a door, left the bike with a kind family that would tend for it while I went into town, then hitched from Sheffield into the Christchurch airport. The very second car that passed me on leaving Sheffield took me all the way to the airport. Went to the rental car desks at the airport, went round 8 that had no cars left because it was peak season. The 9th had a single solitary car, which happened to be the only one they stocked that could put a bike in the back. It was sort of a wagon. I then drove that back up to Mount Hutt, met up again with Kath and Ruben, who were just arriving when I arrived, and the next day went into town, picked up a bottom bracket, drove it back to Methven, and found Big Al's bike shop. And Big Al's were just amazing. They fixed it all up the next day, and I had the bike back very soon. It meant staying 3 nights in Geraldine, where my mum lives, rather than the one, but hey, that was a small price to pay to get our holiday back on track. But yeah, we had to make a few changes after that because we were going to run out of time. I wish I'd got it serviced before I left town. While I set about trying to recover and get my bike fixed up, they got to enjoy, sheep and some interesting river crossings. The Kennett brothers recommend this particular route that they're on here, but don't say much about the Dirty Great River that they had to cross over. Unfortunately, they got no footage of what happened next, but I'm sure it was hilarious as they crossed the big ford. And, the trip for them ended with the downhill into Rakaya Gorge, and because of the uncertainties about my bike, etc., we had arranged to stay at Mount Hutt Lodge rather than put tents up, because tents are going to be in different places, and didn't regret that at all. That was a very good thing to do, given that perhaps our holiday could have been over at this stage. So with me trying to get things fixed up on my bike, Kath and Ruben set out to cross the plains. We were going to go to Geraldine that day, but it rained quite steadily, and because by the end of this day I had a car, we decided to pick them up from Mayfield and just make it a slightly shorter day. There was some big rain that was due, and my mum was due back from a holiday in Geraldine, so we went over there and ended up spending 3 nights. Very uneventful day. It would have been uneventful even if we didn't have a bike issue to deal with, but with the added rain, it seemed no point just biking on the flat all day when there was no real need to. For 2025, the Sounds to Sounds route was changed to take advantage of a new cycleway that's being put in through Pleasant Point and Cave. up towards Mckenzie Pass. And so far that goes as far as cave only. We decided not to do that, but to take the rather busy highway directly from Geraldine to Fairlie. Reason being that although I had a brand spanking new bottom bracket, I had a brand spanking new bottom bracket. My experience is if they're likely to fail, it's usually 5 minutes after you've installed the things. So we didn't want the isolation of the Mckenzie Pass route and decided instead to go direct, which of course meant that we had more time for the delights of Fairlie itself. And by the delights of Fairlie, I of course meant the pies from the Fairlie bakery. We were, of course, engaging in pie consumption all over the place. This had really become the tour of pies. And what better place to get a pie than the Fairlie bakery, famous for its pies, and in my mind, famous for having vegetarian pies too. For those who might think that we'd gone soft, preferring to do Burke's Pass rather than Mckenzie Pass, well, this seemed like a really risky and dangerous day. Holiday traffic, no verge alongside the road, meant for a very uncomfortable day. The weather was good and the climb was nicely graded up to Burke's Pass, but yeah, boy, it was dangerous. That's the pub that we stayed in. That's nice accommodation up top. And mostly, yeah, it was just a simple tar seal day with a bit of climbing, but very well graded. But it's all of that traffic that we had to deal with that, was a bit more worrying than it might have looked. I got hit at one stage by the wing mirror of a camper van and nearly went completely down off bank. But fortunately there were no further calamities. And the weather was good. The scenery was pretty good. It was very easy biking, and I'll probably regret never doing the Mckenzie saddle, but good day nonetheless. Lots of trailside flowers and lupin on this new bit of track that they've opened up from Dog Kennel Corner into Decapole. So we'd caught back up with the literal Kennett Brothers Sounds to Sounds route at this stage. Very nice downhill into town, and Tekapo is always a good place to end up at the end of a day cycling. We were on the Alps to Ocean cycleway now, but unfortunately the rain was back. This was one of the wettest summers that people can remember in the South Island, and we weren't badly affected by it because when it was at its worst, we tended to be in dry, almost desert-like places like inland Marlborough and here in the high country of Mckenzie country. Always liked doing the canals route, but yeah, it was pretty wet. And later in the day, we had some hellish headwinds to deal with, and more traffic. But yeah, nice opportunity to get a good solid day's biking under our belt. So crossing the Hurunui River meant that we were almost in Otago. To be honest, the Canterbury section of the Sounds to the Sounds was a bit boring, a bit meh. But yeah, we kind of liked the opportunity to just get our bikes in order, get ourselves in order, get some bike fitness ready for what was to come next, because Amarama Saddle is a fairly big, ambitious target.